Hi, and welcome back to What Am I Modeling? My guest today is Leah Vachani, and she is a certified menopause specialist and nutrition coach. She is the mother of two boys, similar to me, and a recovering perfectionist. So, we are actually going to talk a lot about perfectionism. We're going to talk about the definition of failure and success. We're going to talk about gratitude. And we're going to talk about the ways a lot about how, as women particularly, we really beat ourselves up over everything. We tend to focus on things that perhaps we don't have control over and try to control them. So we're going to get pretty real and pretty vulnerable today on the patterns that we've seen as practitioners and as women, and in ourselves, and how we dealt with them, and then also give some takeaways and some inspiration for how you can walk away inspired to achieve everything that you've ever wanted without that constant overwhelm and stress. So it is my pleasure to introduce Leah Vachani. Well, hello there, my friend Leah. How are you today?
Hey, Tricia, I'm good. It's Friday. I'm really good.
I know you just got back from vacation, so I'm like throwing you back into the world after you were off having fun, hopefully.
Yeah, there was a lot of fun to be had.
But that's good. I'm so happy that you are here today. Recovering perfectionist to recovering perfectionist.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into that a lot because I feel like personally, I don't even know if women relate to the word perfectionist anymore because I think it's become the norm where perfectionism is just expected and we don't necessarily label it. And when I started asking a lot of women, do you consider yourself a perfectionist? Clearly watching them be a perfectionist, they're like, no, I'm not a perfectionist. I have a lot to do, you know? So let's talk about perfectionism. Why do you consider yourself a recovering perfectionist? What were you like? What are you trying to go through? Fill me in.
I mean, I feel like I filled the typical norm, the expectation of first child. I was a type A. I was self-motivated to be straight A student, doing all the after school activities, excelling, being MVP of my sports teams. I have not dove into like where that comes from because my parents definitely didn't have a strict like expectation or a high bar for me. It was all self-imposed. And so there's something innate that I was born with. And then I think society also kind of aggravates that. I mean, it pulls it out of you. We grow up for better or for worse, we grow up in a society where it's really looked highly upon to be an overachiever and to have all these accolades and to be the top of the list, the top of whatever, the best in your world, the best in your game, the best in your career. And so I just fell into it. And then at some point I realized, what? This is not serving me.
It doesn't. I know, you were saying, I was going to ask you, were your parents very driven? Because you said this was self-imposed. Your parents were not. So like, what were you like as a toddler? Like, what was 2-year-old Leah like? I know you probably don't remember. What did they
No,
tell you you were like?
I don't remember, but my mom tells me stories about like some of my first words were me do it, me do it. And so I think there was something innate there. My parents definitely did not propagate that. Like that wasn't something I grew up with. In fact, I think, Tricia, now that so I'm going to be totally vulnerable here. My dad has an illness it's ALS. So he has a timeline that is, we know what is going to happen and it's going to happen pretty fast. And so there's been a lot of like reminiscing about childhood, how I grew up, my relationship with my parents. And one thing I think that actually drove me, and maybe others can relate to this, is he was the opposite. He was not a go-getter. He was not a like fighter and a symbolism of strength and pick yourself up by the bootstraps and go, go, go. And I'm wondering if I maybe saw that and was like, I don't want to be that. I want to be the opposite. And so that's to answer the long answer to your question is I think that kind of shaped me seeing what I didn't want to be and did the opposite.
And that's so interesting because as a parent, like, my youngest, when he was little, as soon as he could talk, he was saying, Shacy, Shacy. Like anything I did, he was like, Shacy, Shacy, meaning I want to see it. Like, don't leave me out of this. Like if I took a picture of him, I couldn't even turn the it off fast enough before he was like, Shacey, Shacey. And he's like screaming at me. And I'm like, oh my God, child, what are you doing? And we try to set this environment for our kids to teach them, but they may very well want the opposite. And I think of that in myself because I'm going to control their diet. Like mine was all about control, right? I'm going to control what my kids eat. I'm not going to be the parent that lets them drink soda at 2 years old. And then they go to a birthday party and they have soda. And I'm like, oh my God, right? And freaking out. So am I going to teach them now to drink soda by trying to do the right thing, right? Is it the opposite? I find these traits so interesting. And what I really find interesting about what you've said so far is that it was in you. No one gave it to you. That was you. So how do you take that trait in a child, in yourself, and turn it into something that benefits you over something that hinders you? So let's go into how this trait hindered you first before we go into how it's benefited you. How did it hinder you growing up?
Well, I think and maybe others can feel the same way, but when you're always expecting perfection, you're going to always be disappointed because we are not perfect beings. And it's literally impossible to be perfect. So you're setting yourself up for failure, right? Because you can never achieve perfectionism.
Never. It's impossible. It is a failure in itself.
Yeah.
And then so how did you, and I don't know if this has changed for you. Maybe this has changed in recent years. Maybe it hasn't. But how do you view success and failure then when it comes about you? Is there ever a success?
Oh my God, Tricia, that's such a good question. I think I'm still learning that. I think I'm
Yeah.
still defining it for myself. And as a mom, too, I have two boys. One is a teenager. I feel like I'm failing all the time.
Dude,
Um,
every morning.
every single hour of the day, it feels like. But I think actually what I'm learning as I go through this crazy journey of like being a mom and also trying to figure out myself is my friends, my loved ones, they are helping me realize how to define success because I hear it from them. It's like my village, right? My village is helping to teach me. My best friends are like, wow, like, look at you handling this situation with, you're such a good mom. And I'm like, what? Really? And they're helping that perspective. It's like they're putting a mirror on me and I'm forced to see myself through a different perspective, a different lens. And I'm like, oh, hey, I'm actually not doing so bad. You
And
know?
how, and that I'm assuming affects your mood and how you attack other things in life.
Yeah.
When it can
Yeah.
be mirrored back. Because I know as women, we get so stuck and we feel like we're failing all the time. I have two boys as well, both teenagers, both completely different personalities. Not even the same conversation with either of them on the same point. Like I have to phrase it in two different ways. And you do. I think all moms and probably dads listening can relate to feeling like a failure or you don't know if you're doing it right. But what was interesting about what you said with what your friends do for you and they mirror it is they change your perspective. And when your perspective is shifted, when your lens is shifted, you feel better, your health is better, you take care of yourself better, right? But we get so stuck in thinking like we always thought we're failing, we're not doing it right. So and so over there has a son that got straight A's in math, but my kid can't seem to get over a C. What am I doing wrong? Right? And we blame ourselves. And that blame game is detrimental to our health. And I know you see a lot of women in that blame game. So what type of conditions do you see them developing from being in that perfectionistic cycle?
Well, I guess we can go back to the mirror because so many women look in the mirror and they're blaming themselves for everything. They're just nitpicking every like thing. My clothes don't fit right. My skin is sagging. I have extra wrinkles. I'm losing hair. Like I don't look sexy anymore. Whatever they're constantly putting the blame on themselves for things, by the way, that I think are just part of natural aging, but also a lot of the stuff is out of their control too, in the sense that we want to control, you mentioned the word control before.
Mm-hmm.
We want to control everything in our lives, at least most of people do. And there are things that I feel are just out of our control. And if we release that control and just accept, I'm not saying accept that maybe you're overweight and you
Yeah.
medically should lose a little bit of weight to be healthier. I'm not saying accept things like that, but the things out of your control, like some of the aging stuff, as women in our 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, it's really hard. I think I find myself looking in the mirror thinking like, okay, am I going to accept this or I'm going to fight this? And if you fight it, it's kind of a losing battle. Like you're setting yourself up for failure again.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say here is women, myself included, when we look in the mirror, can we shift that perspective and can we see it's the glass half full versus glass empty, Tricia?
Yep.
That
Mhm.
analogy constantly comes into my head because you can have two people looking at the same glass and one is like, oh, it's half empty. My
Mhm.
life sucks. And the other one's like, wow, look at all the water I have. Like, this is amazing.
Well,
Same glass, two people.
and our brain is also trained throughout growing up what that desire is. And I wanted to say, when you were talking about acceptance, I agree with you, right? You don't accept, there's things you want to change, but it's acceptance for where you are in the process right now, right? That's what it is. It's saying, okay, this is where I am right now. This
Your
is where I'm
season.
trying to go. I'm fine with that right now. And I will tell you, growing up in the modeling industry, being a professional model, I have met literally the most beautiful people in the world by external standards. And they still looked in the mirror, myself included, and said, I'm ugly, my hair's frizzy, my body looks like crap, I need to lose weight, my clothes don't fit. So when people sit there and they say, well, I want to look like that, that's what I want to look like. When I get there, I'll be happy. I'm here to tell you it has nothing to do with that. Because I've seen literally, like, I'm talking supermodels that anyone in the world would be like, oh my God, that's one of the most beautiful people in the world. And they would sit there and they were not eating. They were, their mindset towards who they were was low. Their self-worth was low. I just told someone the other day, there was a period of my life where I ate half a bagel and half an apple every day.
Oh my God.
And externally, people would look in and say, oh my God, you're out like walking runways and doing large campaigns for all these major companies, and you are absolutely gorgeous. I didn't think I was gorgeous. I thought I was ugly. I thought, I can't possibly, what am I doing here? I mean, it was an imposter syndrome. I was like, what am I doing here? I don't even know what I'm doing, And granted, I was 14 or 15 or 16 or whatever, but I think it's an important point because we do put this expectation that we're supposed to look a certain way by the time we're X amount of age, or because we work out, we're supposed to be a size 0, And I think we really do need to shift that lens because the external markers are not going to make you happy. That happiness comes from that light in your eye. When you look in the mirror and you say, damn, I'm doing really well today. Today's okay. I woke up today. I'm sure we can talk about this too with your dad having that condition, right? I lost both my parents very young for them. And it changed my perspective on waking up every day.
Yeah.
Like for you with ALS, watching somebody go through that, it's going to change your perspective on being able to walk, drive, cook,
Yeah.
like be involved with your family, see your kids, go to their football games, whatever. Those become moments of gratitude, right? Like how has that anticipation of what's happening impacted you as a perfectionist, or has it yet? Am I getting ahead of you?
No, it's definitely impacted. And when you said the word gratitude, that pretty much sums up like I've had this shift. I've never had a relationship with the concept of gratitude. I didn't grow up going to church or have a religious influence. My parents didn't really talk about that. And so my relationship with gratitude and what that means has just started in the recent, 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
And what it's taught me is that there is literally so much to be grateful for, but we just forget. Like it's not a constant, at least for me, it's not a constant thought. I'm not looking out and I haven't been taught to see all of the wonderful things in my life. And so having these moments like my dad going through this, I'm like, holy crap. Like I got up in front of him and was, reaching up to get something high in the kitchen. And I was looking at him thinking like, he can't even do that. He can't even get out of his chair. He
Right.
can't even feed himself. And I'm like, look at me and my life and my boys. I'm like, you guys, how do I teach this to you? How do I teach it to myself? And when you're in that moment, and it's fleeting for me right now, when
Yeah.
I'm in that moment, I'm like, wow, like this is good. And then of course the next moment I'm out of it and I'm like stressing about, the to-do list and all this stuff. But then I'm like, wow, how do I get back to that feeling? So it's a
Well,
journey.
Well, and it's funny because earlier we talked about how can you see success if you're a perfectionist, right? How? Because you're always failing. Well, gratitude is your success. Those are the successes. So when people say, "Yeah, but I never see the good in it," how am I supposed to change that, Dr. Pingel or Leah? Or what am I supposed to do? And the first step is gratitude because every gratitude moment is a success. It's changing your definition of success. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would.
My success is waking up in the morning, walking down the stairs by myself, seeing my beautiful family in front of me, making them breakfast, and having that time. To me, time is success. I've switched it. The time that I spend with people and the impact and the relationships that I can have with people is my success. That's why I started this podcast, because I can have
Yeah.
relationships with people. So I think it's redefining success through
Yeah.
gratitude. And it's unfortunately, and do you find this in your patient population that people don't really find that until they have a massive loss?
Yeah, like literally loss. Like I'm a nutritionist, right? And so the measure for success for a lot of women is weight loss.
Yeah.
And what I see is crazy that like I've had so many clients stay the exact same weight on the scale,
Hmm.
but so much is changing, and some people see it and some people can't see it. Their mood is better, their sleep is better. They have this like glow, this
They have a
excitement, this
twinkle.
yeah, the
Yeah.
twinkle. And I'm like, "Don't you see it? Like, I can see it in you."
Hmm.
And some of them do and some of them don't. And I'm like, I'm still trying to figure out how to bridge that gap. But yeah, like seeing that measure, that singular measure of success as the number on the scale to me is like devastating because I see all this other success for them, their health, their lives,
Hmm.
their mood, everything. So on that note though, like if that's what gets you there, if your goal is something that is a measure, like a tangible measure of success, weight on the scale, I'm actually okay with that because if that's the journey, if that's like the place on the map you're trying to get, and then your journey is something that takes you maybe there, maybe a little bit of a sidewinding, maybe past that, but you're accomplishing all those success moments, the gratitude, the joy, the passion, the vibrance of life, you're experiencing all that, then great. Like let's
How
measure it on a scale if that's what gets you there.
how much of a role does mindset play in weight loss and proper nutrition?
I mean, it is the only thing really that matters because if you don't have the right mindset, you're either going to get to a place where you're not happy, or if you have the right mindset, you're most likely going to get to even if it's not the place you thought you were going, you're
Yeah.
going to get to a place where you're like, oh, hell yeah, life is good. I love this. I love feeling this way.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I find, as an adrenal doctor, that people do the diet, they do the exercise, and they're focusing on that number. And what's actually stopping them is their focus on that number because they're not looking at the body composition changes, the changes in the lab work, which are all steps towards the final
Yeah.
goal, right? And it's not about I don't even weigh myself anymore
Yeah.
because every time I do, I get sad
Yeah.
because I've gained 30 pounds from where I thought I was. Now, if you look at me externally, you would have no idea. You would be like, oh, you look great, Tricia. You got muscle mass, you're bright, you're twinkly, like, which now I see. I see my twinkle now. I look back in pictures when I was 20 pounds lighter and my eyes are literally dead. I mean, they're just not there, right?
Yeah.
Because I was so focused in on the external experience. So I just wonder how getting to that point, I agree with you. I think it's small gratitude statements, but I think when people say, why can't I? Why can't I just get rid of this last whatever? That's if we keep saying that, it's time to say, okay, how are we looking at that? Why is that the only goal we're seeing in all the other amazing little things that we did? And what if gratitude was the thing that actually helped you get there? And so I was curious if you saw that as well, because that's what I see, because those stress hormones just start going crazy.
Yeah.
I was doing a master class, I think it was a couple days ago, on anxiety, and we were talking about the brain, how when the amygdala, if you think something, the amygdala think it's happening. So, and let's say you say, okay, I'm really worried that my son is going to get injured in football. My amygdala and my brain interpret the worry about him getting injured as he's already been injured. It doesn't know the difference. So your body's in a stress response by worry, by that focus of the always trying to figure out how you're going to fix it or whatever. And it's such an interesting concept, because what if your brain said, my son's not going to get injured? One, the odds of him getting injured are less because you're not putting that fear and that energy out there, but also your body is acting as if it's not a problem and you're so much more relaxed, so the body can go and lose weight. So do you have any thoughts on that, on shifting mindset on people that are stuck in that cycle of being weight focused
Yeah,
instead of
I love
nutrition
that you brought up
focused?
the word what your brain is focused on, because I think for decades in our society, we were focused on one thing, which was the number on the scale, for women at least, right? And now what I love is that the conversation is totally changing, and we're actually bringing in a lot more markers, if you will, or areas to focus on, which I think is helping shift that focus to things that, like people want tangible things too that they can track and
Mhm.
follow and see their success. But when you spread it out into so many different areas, then you can start to see success. Like, for example, if you're tracking like your A1C, your blood sugar, see, like there's so many things, including your mindset and your diet, that can change that. And even if your weight doesn't change, you can see that number go down. Women are focusing also on, like, if they're wearing a wearable, and they're focusing on that data,
Mhm.
and they're seeing these small shifts, which are, moments of success. And also, in my experience, empowering, because women are like, oh, what I'm doing is actually shifting. Even if the scale isn't changing, I'm feeling more energetic. I actually see it on some numbers. I feel better about myself. Like, all these things, there's so many different markers that we can focus on now. I love that. Like, there's
Mhm.
there's a shift there.
I love the change of conversation when it comes to that. I think you're so right. I think I was raised that the less calories you eat, the better you are. And that is just not true, right?
Yeah.
As we've learned that. So you became a nutritionist. Did you have disordered patterns with food before that that made you go into nutrition, or had you always been just very nutrition focused as a kid and a teen?
Okay, this is wild, Trisha, because I'm like the one nutritionist, I think, or healthcare practitioner that didn't have a struggle to overcome to get into this field. So I was on the pre-med track in college.
Mhm.
And at some point I was looking around, I'm like, I don't really like the people I'm with. I don't have this vibe. Like, I don't belong here.
Mhm.
So, but I was still super curious about health.
Mhm.
So I became a nutritionist. And then as I had babies and grew my, like, preconception, pregnancy, that's when I was really like, oh my God, I want to build beautiful brains for them and strong bodies and healthy immune systems. And I was all in. I was like, this is amazing what you can do with food. It literally wasn't. And so I grew a healthy family, and it wasn't really until very recently that I started to experience the same thing that most women are experiencing in their, 40s ish, the perimenopause. Ooh. And I was like, holy crap, this is real. And whatever I was doing before that worked, it is completely not working anymore. I was gaining weight, my brain fog, my sleep, all these things. My joints started hurting. I'm like, oh my God. So at that point, I was like, I, speaking of gratitude, I was so grateful I had decades of this knowledge. And then I was like, now I really need to use it. Now I really get to dive in. And this has been my journey now, is where I'm actually selfishly trying to figure out what the heck is going on with me so that I can also help so many other women.
It's cortisol. You know it is. It's that driven control coming back to get us, because I always explain this. It's so funny. Maybe I've said it this way, but I pretend like cortisol and progesterone are like two sisters and they share a closet. And cortisol always steals progesterone's shoes. And it's like progesterone's like, okay, fine, take them, you know? And so it's like it always takes from progesterone all the time. And then we hit our 40s and we're like, gee, why are we showing signs of estrogen dominance or progesterone deficiency now? Why? Well, because we've spent our whole lives, I think it's our generation. I really do. I think we were raised with this idea from, my mom. My mom was happy to be working as a receptionist, right? And it turned in from like women can work, for the man, to women can run the company. And we were raised in this environment where we were like, oh, yeah, you can do it and you can do everything. And we were raised that way. So we did. And we are. And now we're like, gosh, we feel kind of off. And I think we've adapted so much to that. And it's so interesting to see that in my friends and my colleagues and myself. I actually feel better than I've ever felt in my entire life at 49, despite having hormone changes. But the key was the cortisol. It was crazy. I
Yeah.
had to get a hold of that. I just had to. And I'm still trying to get a hold of it. You said something I want to bring back to gratitude for a quick second, because when you were telling your story, you talked about how you grew healthy babies. And to all you mamas out there, the one thing we do not give ourselves gratitude enough when we look in the mirror is that our body built a baby. That is freaking incredible. We built a baby. We gained all this weight. We shoved a watermelon out of something that's like the size of, like a pebble. And we gave birth to a child, to a human that can communicate and grow and contribute to the world. And yet we look at our body with a little bit more of a hip or a little bit more of a belly, and we put ourselves down. I mean, oh my God. So I want to come back to all the mamas out there. We're all going to take a little moment of gratitude for birthing a watermelon.
It's so true, Tricia. I joke with my kid. I'm like, I 3D printed you.
Right. I mean, that was not easy. That was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I did my natural in a tub of water twice in my kitchen at home. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. And also the most amazing, empowering, like life-altering thing I've ever done. And I forgot about that moment. So I got pregnant again.
That's Mother
And
Nature.
and then was like, I'm going to do it again. And after the second one, I was like, okay, I'm going to remember how this felt. And I'm going to remember not to do this again because it was so much pain. But at the same time, the amount of like love and appreciation I had for my body to be able to go through that, I want us not to forget about that. You too.
Well, but we do forget, I think, Tricia. And part of it, I think, is Mother Nature is like, she is purposely making us forget so we will have more than one child. Like that's programmed. But why don't we talk about this more? Like, why don't we, even just within our own selves, why don't we think about this ever? Like, I don't have the answer. You
Yeah.
brought that up and I was like, holy crap, you're right. I also birthed 2 children without medications. It was the hardest thing I ever did. And why am I not constantly being like, you're such a badass, good
I
job?
know. Badass. I was loading furniture into my new office yesterday because I'm moving office spaces and I had no help. And I'm lugging stuff upstairs. And the whole time I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I should have taken a moment and said, wait a minute, girl. You birthed an almost 9-pound baby naturally without any anesthesia. You can freaking take a couch up a stairs. Like just buck up and do it. You know what I mean? But I think we forget.
But also, Tricia, do you think it's that it's so normal to constantly put ourselves down or not give credit? Like we're always focusing on the negative and we're not living in that positive space of like, you did this, way to go. You did this, you're a rock star. Like, way to go. You made lunch for your whole family. Then you made dinner. Then you cleaned the kitchen and you worked. Like, why are we not giving ourselves a constant like pat on the back?
I know. I often say, how come if a child came home and said, Mom, I don't feel good. I don't like my body. I'm ugly. How would we speak to them? Yet we say that and we don't speak to ourselves that way. Where do you think that comes from? Like right now, why is it that us 40-something-year-old women in particular are so hard on ourselves? What do you think?
I think it goes back to cortisol.
Ha!
I think because many of us actually are using cortisol to drive us through the day, that when you have that, like, I need to achieve this, I need to get better, I need to do better, I need to get to this next thing, that's cortisol driving us.
So how do we, this is a rhetorical question, I don't even know, but how do we manage that, but also still stay driven? I had someone say to me the other day, and it was a great point. She's like, well, I'm afraid to come to you because I'm afraid you're going to tell me to quit my job because I'm a driven person. I'm a CEO of a company. I don't want to quit my job, but stress comes with it. So how do I have this amazing kick-ass job in this life that I love and also deal with my health with cortisol? Do you have any advice for women out there in that scenario?
Well, to your example of that woman, how many other things, though, in her life are also contributing to that high cortisol? Maybe you can have that one thing and
Mhm,
you learn to manage,
mhm.
right? You can have a balance, which
It's
is
about balance. Yeah,
right.
it's about if you're gonna drive and work 10 hours a day, then you have to let up in other areas of your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Or you have to make sure that you're taking the time to decompress after the day, taking an hour to put yourself into a meditative state to allow the body to recover. I think it's about recovery. I mean, our bodies were built to handle stress, but how do you recover from it? Do you just jump into the next stressful thing, or do you allow your body to actually come down from that? And I think it's a real challenge. I
Yeah. I think
I
it's
do.
about learning to say no too. Like,
Mm,
it's almost society almost, and I'm not saying across the board, but I've seen this where women are almost shamed or guilted if they're just like, I just want to be a stay-at-home mom. And I say just, and I shouldn't use that word because it's a massive job,
yeah.
right? So if they choose to be in the home, taking care of their family and the home, and that's what they want, we're almost shamed for that. Like, wait, you're not working? What else? You're just sitting at home all day? Like all
Yeah.
this shame and guilt. And I think that that's just one example, but women are constantly saying yes to things that they don't want to do because they feel obligated. They feel like they should. They're shitting all over themselves. We are shitting all over ourselves, doing these things that are contributing to that cortisol. When actually, if you just like I chose to be a stay-at-home mom for like 10 years.
Good for you.
Yeah, and I chose that because it was the best thing for my family and for me. That's what I wanted. And I still found myself
Mhm.
feeling like I was guilted into being like in the PTA and like volunteering for this and doing this and doing this. And all of a sudden the list was so long. I was like, I hate my life. This is so stressful. And how do we get there?
Yeah. And I think also as women, we see a lot of that shame, that guilt, that fear on social media. We do see it from I had a thing where there was a fundraiser for school, and if the kids don't sell everything they're supposed to sell, there's like a punishment to them. And I'm like, okay, but this is a fundraiser. Shouldn't it be like you're given 10 of something, sell as many as you can, Betty, and we'll give a reward to somebody who sells the most, as opposed to all of you will be punished if you don't sell enough? Like, why don't you just ask me for the money then? Like, at that point, it's not a fundraiser, right? But and I found myself getting kind of caught up in that, but it's kind of like, well, that's what our environment is. If you don't keep up, you're punished. If you don't do that, instead of saying, hey, how about we contribute to society? Would you like to contribute to the PTA? And what can you bring to it? I don't have time this week. That's totally fine. Thank you so much for even the little bit that you did last week. Like, there's a way we can change that perspective. And I think social media is leading a lot of that. I mean, just open it. How much fear, how many recalls? There was a note on something the other day, was like, oh my God, how many recalls do we have now? I'm like, just as many as we've always had. It's just, well, I mean, and maybe there's more, I don't know. But when you do go and you look at the recall, we've always had tons of recalls. We just never heard about it, right? You had to go seek that. But now it's being put the first time we open our phone. It's like, eggs are recalled. This is recalled. Food sucks. You're dying. Here's what's this. And it's like, oh my God, like, calm down. Like, can we open our phone and see something that says, you're amazing? By the way, here's the news.
Everyone go follow Dr. Tricia Pingel right now because her feed is amazing. But Tricia, so my son is 15 and I battled this for a long time, but he has Instagram now.
Yep.
I wanted to wait a little bit longer, but anyways, that's a long story. He is actually managing it. I co-manage it, or I sneak a peek here and there, but he is managing it very well. And when I went into his feed the other day, which he knows I go into and I look at, it was all like super interesting car stuff and like funny, like giggly stuff and some chemistry, some physics. Like he's really into that stuff. And I was looking at his feed. I'm like, wow, this actually makes me happy and joyful and like inspired and motivated. And then I looked at my feed. I'm like, same as you, like recall this and like the government just did this and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I have a personal Instagram as well. And on that, I only follow funny French bulldogs and dance videos. And it's great. I'm inspired the whole time. I go to my business one where I need to follow health and wellness practitioners. I need to follow what's going on in the world so that I have subject. And I'm literally depressed the minute I open it. Great point. I think what you follow matters. I mean, my son's feed, he just at 17 on Instagram, his is all French bulldog videos. I get dog videos all day long. Like, there's one of two dogs. I'll have to put it below this, but there's one of two dogs on a podcast. It's AI, but it's hilarious. And it's like these two dogs talking about how stupid humans are. And I lose it. But you're right. We have an ability to control our environment. I think the whole wrap up to this, and then I'll give you a moment too, is I think when we're raised with this idea that we're supposed to control everything, we're supposed to do everything, that we're never successful, and we're living in fear, shame, guilt, and dislike for ourselves, based on what everyone else has taught us, we're not ever growing or advancing forward. And I think we have to take control. The one thing we can control is our environment. We can control what we put ourselves into. The other thing we can control is how we interpret what our senses pick up. When we see something, when we hear something, we can change the way that our brain thinks about it. And it takes a moment. Like you have to think, oh my gosh, and then go, wait a minute. Now, Tricia, calm down. The world's egg population is not gone. Just take a deep breath. Let's maybe consider that maybe this was clickbait, and let's just take a moment and look at the whole situation, reframe it. I'm so grateful to have 5 eggs. I may not be able to buy another dozen, but I can have 5. And I have 5, and my neighbor has a farm, so I can walk over there and get an egg, right? I mean, like we can change the way we look at what that stress is. And that is one thing that we can control. And probably the only thing we can control is what we think and put back out there. So on that note, as we wrap up, number 1, I want people to know how to find you and a little bit about what you do. And I also want to have your perspective on where do people go from here? And what do you think from our conversation today?
I love what you just said. And it kind of ties into how I try to live my life now, is I treat my brain like a toddler. Do you remember when your kids were super young? If you have kids, you'll remember this. And there was a point around like age 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4, where you really could only give them decision A or B. Like they wanted to have power and choice, and you had to be okay with both choices as a parent. But you
I hated that phase. I hated it because I was like, I don't want either of these. But anyway, go ahead.
So you'd always choose the maximum amount of choice a toddler could have is 2. It's A or B. That's it. But I think our adult brains are also like that. We can only choose between 2 things. Otherwise, we feel overwhelmed, overstimulated, over whatever, fill in the blank. And so when I actually find myself getting a little like, ugh, I'm like, okay, Leah, you have choice A or B. That's it. And if, like, for example, if it's a stressful situation, I'm like, can you control this or not? If you can't control it, let it go. You have no control. So why even stress about it?
Yeah, and wait for the consequence. I mean, that was the choices, right? It was like you choose A and you get this, you choose B, you get this. It's okay to live in a consequence. There's actually a lot of lessons in consequences. That's why we ground our children, right?
Yeah. And also simple things like consequences. Like I'm a nutritionist, right? I think a lot about food. I had some birthday cake from my mother-in-law's birthday the other night, and I was like, should I eat it or not? I chose to eat it, by the way. And I had the consequences of having the blood sugar high and crash. And I knew going into it, but I'm like, but it's so good. So, like, just give yourself, just simplify life where you can. Give yourself a choice, A or B, and be happy with that choice no matter the consequences. Or, you just, otherwise you're constantly second guessing. You're constantly living in this stress of not making decisions. That is a stress in itself. So, whatever it may be, just simplify your life. That's my
Absolutely.
last advice.
And where can people find you? And
So
what do
I'm
you
on
do?
Instagram and I'm trying to integrate some laughter in there as well as some nutrition advice. And it's just my name at Leah Vachani, same as my website, leahvachani.com. And I would say I work mostly with women like myself, 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s. And it's through the lens of perimenopause and menopause with nutrition and health, but we dive into so much in our communities about, well, why am I making these choices? How do I shift that? The mindset around health and why, if you go into it for the wrong reasons, you're probably not going to get the results you want.
That's great. And I encourage all of you to follow her and tell her you want more fun. Just be like, I want more fun interjected here. Sometimes I feel like I have too much fun. And I'm like, okay, was there even a point to that? Like,
That's
what?
not a
Like,
thing, Trisha. That's
that's
not a
not a
thing.
thing. You like
No.
my feed.
I love, you can't have too much fun. And I think you should actually go back to your school and say, like, where's the fun in the fundraiser? There's
I know. Well, oh my gosh, 100%. Like just ask us for money at that point. Like, what's the point? Like, anyway. Anywho, I so enjoy talking with you. Thank you so much for jumping back into work after vacation with me today. And I'm just grateful for you, and I'm grateful for this 45 minutes just to be able to be in your brain and spend time with you. So thank you for taking that time.
I am so grateful, Trisha, that you do what you do because it is so needed. I'm going to send everyone to your feed to laugh as much as possible and learn from you. So thank you for doing what you do.
Absolutely.